Our hope for the future is that in 20 or 30 more years, optimal cancer therapy is going to be available for every human being on the planet who gets this disease. That's simply a hope right now and perhaps a vision. But I think efforts like the one we're making at ASCO, the one that ESMO is making, are beginning to chip away at the problem and make, I think, what is an aspiration a reality. The concept of value in a medicine or in a drug, at least in our thinking, relates to the clinical benefit that the drug brings to the patient who is sick. And we call that net health benefit because we actually relate how good it is against the patient's cancer and how many side effects or how toxic it is so that it makes that patient ill or doesn't make that patient ill. I think that when we value a drug, if it has a very profoundly good effect on the cancer, it really is much more than the cost of the drug that we need to think about. For example, if I'm taking drug X and it helps my sickness and it keeps me working, I'm a productive person in the economy for as long as it keeps me working. So even if I'm paying a good amount of money for the drug, it's having a countervailing effect. So this is a very gray rather than a black and white area. I would prefer to see a world in which reimbursement for drugs is done somehow, some way, in conjunction with an assessment of their value. And that's why I'm excited to see what the European Society of Medical Oncology is doing, because they're trying to quantify what is a meaningful benefit attributable to a drug and which ones fall above that bar and which ones fall below. ASCO is trying to do something very similar. It's up to us in the academic community to actually look into this more deeply and to do clinical studies that enable us to use less drug and determine whether that's just as good. We already have some studies that are being published that show that you can get the same good effect at times with half the drug under certain circumstances. I think that's an area of great possibility that some of us are beginning to think about in a very, very concrete way. Finding an ideal solution to having the best available drugs at the lowest possible price for the greatest number of people is an absolute ideal. As it is with many things, the perfect is the enemy of the good. I think that progress gets made in small steps. I'll give you an example. The World Health Organization has an essential medicines list. That is a list of anti-cancer drugs that are not the latest, greatest antibody therapy, but they are many, many drugs that are now off patent that could help many, many people in many parts of the world that currently have no cancer care. Basically, cancer drugs are now more and more targeted. They're either targeted towards a particular immunologic target to reactivate the immune system, or they're targeted towards a protein that's abnormal or aberrant in a cancer cell. So we have a lot of work to do, but it starts off with trying to decide which drugs are good and how good are they for the intended purpose. And that, we hope, will give the regulatory authorities, be they the government or insurance companies, an opportunity to decide whether indeed this drug should be compensated or reimbursed